I'd like to see the stats from Joe Biden on how many people he killed in the UK by competing in Wimbledon. I don't think they'll find any people there at all. You still can't enter the United States if you're a non kind of US citizen. You can't enter unless you've had 2 vaccinations. Now, I think your production team have got a clip now from, I think it's from back in last September, where Joe Biden was talking about the kind of the pandemic. And I think he was saying kind of the pandemic is over. So this is last September, I think, Mark.
Mr. President, first Detroit Auto Show in 3 years. Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. If you notice, no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape. And so I think it's changing, and I think this is a perfect example of it.
The pandemic is over, but as you say, if you're a non-US citizen and you're a German businessman flying into JFK or LAX for 2 days of business meetings, you can't actually land in America unless you can prove that you've been properly vaccinated. What's the science behind that, Jamie?
Well, that's the good question, you Mark, because I wrote a blog last July, and I would probably talk to you over the last several months about this one. It was kind of highlighting the fact that Novak Djokovic at the time wasn't allowed into the United States to partake in the US Open, and he was the Wimbledon champion at this time. So obviously, I'd like to see the stats from Joe Biden on how many people he killed in the UK by competing in Wimbledon. I don't think they'll find any people there at all. And remember, he was banned originally from Australia from going in, but as Biden was there talking about last September, in terms of moving on from the pandemic is over, we're in this living with COVID phase. Even the likes of the draconian rules that they had at the borders in Australia were relaxed. And what did Djokovic go and do? He goes and enters Australia and he wins the Australian Open.
I think it was an absolutely brilliant way to stick 2 fingers up at Dan Andrews and the rest of the communists in Australia.
Tennis ace Novak Djokovic reclaimed the world #1 spot yesterday with a historic win at the Aussie Open, his 22nd Grand Slam title. Of course, this time last year, the Serb had a torrid time down under after the Australian COVID zealots blocked his route into the country before deporting him due to his vaccination status.
I thought he thoroughly deserved his victory. I think it was an absolutely brilliant way to stick 2 fingers up at Dan Andrews and the rest of the communists in Australia. And the feeling there, you just saw all the emotion pour out of him. And it was just incredible. I mean, the person that won last year knows that there'll be an asterisk by the side of their name because Djokovic wasn't there. I mean, it's been his tournament. He's won it so many times. And it is absolutely amazing. You know, he was ridiculed last year. They made an example of him. And I thought it was disgusting the way that he was treated last year.
It is incredible to think, isn't it, Matt, just how much has changed within a year. Because, of course, as you point out, Dan Andrews, who is the despicable Premier of Victoria, the state in Australia, which has Melbourne as its capital city. I mean, they were demonising this man. They were talking about him as a threat to Australian safety.
Bill Gates, who was there, must have been squirming in his seat to see this unvaccinated individual and an injured unvaccinated individual as well, because he had a bit of an injury that he was carrying and still managed to win the tournament. I mean, how does he do that? I mean, this man shouldn't even be breathing, should he?
You still can't enter the United States if you're a non kind of US citizen. You can't enter unless you've had 2 vaccinations. Now, what's interesting with Joe Biden here, Mark, is that he's asked now, there's some tennis tournaments going on in the US, and we do know he's come out quite openly and said that, you know, he's had no vaccine, which is why he hasn't been able to play in some tournaments. But I think there's a Miami Open coming up soon, and there was an exemption put in for into the kind of the US for him to enter, and it's been rejected.
The pandemic is over. It is over. It is over.
It is over. It is over. It is over. It is over.
The pandemic is over.